Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Lord Shiva is represented in three forms. He is conceived, or he is supposed to be in the three forms. One is the formless state. Shiva in his formless state. Then semi-form. That is the linga, Shiva linga. And then with form. With form, you would have seen Shiva in different pictures. All the Shiva temple you would have seen as seated facing the south. The Akshinamurti as a form. As a young sannyasi state. Or you would have seen Shiva sitting and meditating. That's another form. Or Shiva performing the dance. The only religion in the world that depicted God as dancing. Usually when you have to depict someone who is of a high nature, very big man, very big personality, you don't put them as dancing one. Because the moment you start dancing, you will start looking very ordinary. You will become like, normal person. So, very peculiar system here. They had represented God in the form of dancing. And we have seen that. There are so many ideas there, but I don't know to what extent I have explained. I don't remember. In the form of the Dakshinamurti, there is an idea. As Shiva seated, there is an idea. Shiva as Nataraja, there's an idea. Shiva as Lingam, there is an idea. Now, all these four, there are certain ideas associated with that. So that's the symbolism. Now, in symbolism, all that you have to understand is only this. It's the thought association. That's about it. There is no particular by itself. Right? So any god, when you read goddess, you need to remember this. There is no science there. It's a thought association. It's not derivation. It's an association of ideas. So Dakshinamurti gives a particular idea. What is a particular idea of Dakshinamurti? Is the silence, the teaching of Dakshinamurti. That's why we consider him to be the Adi Guru, the first Guru to be the Dakshinamurti. Is Brahma created 4 sons. They are the first creation. And asked them to create beings. And all four sons, the Sanat Kumara, the four sons were not interested in the world. They wanted to go into the inquiry of Brahman, the truth. So they started moving in that direction. They were not moving in this direction. So there was a problem. So Brahma has to create again. That's where he understood, my God, I made a perfect being. If you create perfect beings, they will not move further into the world. They will move towards Brahman. So let us go to the other extreme. So he created other extreme. All imperfection, completely imperfect. And Brahma got scared after those people came out. He said, all you guys get over to the south. You guys get out to the south. You can't live here in this planet. So he pushed them off. And then he managed, okay, we cannot be having perfect beings, too good or too bad. So we got to strike a balance between the two. That's where human beings got created. This is all just a story, okay? Now, when these Sanat Kumaras have started moving to inquire and learn, they have known everything. They have studied everything. They have understood everything. There's nothing more for them to explore and study. But still, there is something missing they are feeling. You see, they just didn't get that satisfaction. It's like missing something, you know. So they were searching for what is missing in our life, what is missing in our learning, what is missing in our learning. So they went on and on and on, inquiring, and they started searching. When Lord Shiva saw them searching, he took pity on those four rishis. And he came and sat on their pathway in the form of a young sannyasi, mendicant, seated. The brilliance of him attracted these four. And the four went to him and requested him to guide them, teach them. And what is so interesting is, if you see the picture of the Dakshinamurti, you will find Dakshinamurti will look young. The rishis will look old. Old rishis, young teacher. Very, very significant. Usually it will be the other way around. The students would be young, the teacher would be old. Vasishta is much older than Rama. You see, Vishwamitra is much older to Rama. So you see, it is always like that. Old guru, young student. But here it is the other way around. Young teacher, old student. All these four were sitting. And they started asking questions. Question after question after question they were asking. They didn't understand this, what about this, but this and that, how that, this. So much of questions they were asking. He told them, ask all your questions once for all. I'll answer together. I'll give one answer that will answer all your questions. So give out all your questions. They gave all their questions. And Shiva simply, in the form of Dakshinamurti, went into silence. Abstraction. That is Dakshinamurti. Total abstraction. And he just took this, he was just showing them the Chin Mudra. Is the Chin Mudra. Is the one. He was just showing them the Chin Mudra. and he sat quietly. No words spoken. The students understood what he was trying to communicate. And don't listen to any interpretation for this. Okay? Any interpretation is wrong here. Because he did not say a word. Right? Interpretation of a silence is always wrong. You can never rightly interpret silence. What he communicated to them, what they understood, both you have no clue. Like Yoga Vasishta, Rama explained what is his problem. Vasishta gave the reply. You can interpret. This is what Vasishta said. This is the meaning of this word. Or these are the couple of meanings we have. Of the meanings, this is the meaning which is appropriate in this context, etc. You can use such things. You see, Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna speaks, you can interpret. In the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was not uttering a word. He was simply silent. What was he trying to communicate? Factually, was he communicating anything? We don't know. What happened between those two, we can't understand. So don't try that. So Dakshinamurti is not for you and me. We can look at him and come back. That's all. At best, what you can do is, you can go see that picture, come back. Don't try to interpret the silence of the Dakshinamurti. If you can get into that silence, you get it. This is what Krishna says in the Gita. Yah pashyati, sa pashyati. Whoever sees it, sees it. Now, nothing can be done. Now, the moment you understand that silence, the proof of your understanding of that silence is you get into silence. You will shut. But remember, there is a saying, the strength of a fool is his silence. You know, so anyone who is silent need not be a man of wisdom. Okay. That Dakshinamurti is the one who came and spoke as Shankara. What he has not spoken, there's nothing more to explore. So much he had worked and so much he had spoken. So the moment a man opens his mouth, we know. So remember this. All silence is not equivalent to wisdom. But wisdom, realization, one extreme of realization is silence. Another extreme of realization is ecstasy, expressed as Nataraja. Both Shiva represents. Says there are two dimensions to realization. One is silence. Another is dance. And dance also not normal dance. See, ecstasy. When ecstasy comes up, when you get really joyful, you start jumping, you're really happy. Few days back, Purni suddenly jumped out of the sofa. I said, I understood. I said, I understood. She said, I said, I got it. I said, what? No exams. CBSE exams cancelled. Jumping, the joy, right? Either you go to silence or you jump. That jumping extreme is dancing. So Shiva stands in two forms. But that Shiva can only be worshipped by you. That Shiva cannot be followed by you. Remember this. Okay. Then which is the Shiva that we can somehow connect to? Is only that Shiva who is seated. Only who is the seat of meditation. Okay. That Shiva, there is a possibility for us. The other two Shivas are not for our comprehension at all. Dakshinamurti also you cannot comprehend. Nataraja also you cannot comprehend. Because it is almost impossible for us to understand that dance of Nataraja. What is that dance? What does that dance represent? What is the meaning there? It's very difficult to capture it. Of course, we can approximate it. But remember, it's all our studies and interpretations are all approximations only. See? Like the Dakshinamurti silence can be interpreted in any way I want. You see, finally what you have to do, sir, forget all the knowledge. That's all. Which is very convenient for you and me too, because already you are forgetting. Last class, what we had in Lord Shiva, you don't remember. 2 classes before, what we studied about Ganesha, do you remember? You don't remember. You keep forgetting. Now, this man comes and says, finally Shiva says what? You have to forget. You will say what? Thank God. That's exactly what is I am also following, sir. Forgetfulness happens to you. Okay. Dakshinamurti is not saying that. He says, you consciously forget. Try no. Try to forget something consciously. This is why we say, you cannot follow what he is speaking. What he is saying is not possible. You see, is that final, it's beyond all words. Therefore, it is silence. Beyond all thoughts, all sounds, everything is just in the form of a sound. Since it is beyond all the sounds, it is silence. That is the silence he is representing. Now, what do you understand from that? It's not that you don't understand the words. Individually, all the words meaning you know. But when I say it is beyond all sound, beyond all thoughts, what do you understand there? Remember, that's why it's a pictorial representation of that. That's about it. Don't try to interpret it. It is supposed to be absorbed. It is not supposed to be explored. This is just an absorption. See, how can you absorb? You can absorb something only when you are observing. Without observation, absorption is not possible. Now, the Guru is in that state of realization. He has realized. His state of existence needs to be absorbed by me. How can you do that? And what is that state in which I am? How did I reach that state? He is not explaining anything. He is simply showing a mudra. That's about it. It's just a sign. What is that sign? Now you can interpret. The sign can be interpreted. That is possible. So when you are studying the Dakshinamurti, when you are studying Nataraja, you can study around them. Okay. You can never study what he is actually communicating. So here what we can interpret is only the Chinmudra. The mudra represented by the Akshanamurti. The Chinmudra is shown by many gods. It's not that only Shiva is showing it. Okay. Lord Ayyappa, if you go, you see that he is also showing Chinmudra only. You see, so when you go there, it is the same thing. Saraswati is also showing Chinmudra only. Brahma shows Chinmudra. Krishna is supposed to be showing Chinmudra. You see, so Chinmudra is a common one. It's not that it is exclusively only for, there's no patent. Dakshinamurti got patent for this. There's no such thing. It is common. There we take an explanation. But Chinmudra is not showing anything. Chinmudra is only showing the method. You observe what you have to observe, what I did, how I reached this state. Observe what is being done by him. What did he do? So all that he did was move from here to here. That's all I have done. Nothing else. Then what is it, sir? Now it is our interpretation only. Now it is to our freedom. There we say what? Most popular one, which is most acknowledged one, is the index finger to be representing ego, separation. Index finger. Because we point it. To point out something, we use index finger. That's why it is known as index finger. So you are pointing out something external, immediately there is a separation. Now, that Dvaita Bhava comes into picture straight away. So from that Dvaita Bhava, you have to move to Advaita Bhava. How come that Dvaita Bhava you get it? Because this index finger is associated with the other three fingers. The little finger, the ring finger, and the middle finger. These three fingers represents the three equipments: body, mind, intellect. This sense of individuality, the sense of I, is created because of the association with the three bodies. Now, when I disassociate from the three and connect it to the thumb, which is the most effective one for the hands. Because if this thumb is not there, then you cannot use your hands effectively. You miss the thumb, then it becomes most ineffective. So the essential aspect of your personality is the self, Atman, Brahman or God, spirit, soul, consciousness, pure consciousness, life principle, whatever you call it. You disassociate from body, mind and intellect and associate with the self in you. That's the method. When you associate there, what happens? A circle gets formed. There's a circle there, sort of. A circle is complete. There's no starting or there's no end. Representing completeness, Purna, infinite. You reach a state of completeness. That state of completeness is the state of Shiva in the form of the Dakshinamurti, sitting in silence. But that silence cannot be interpreted. Remember. So how do you learn? He says the best method of learning is not through words. Don't look into the words of the Guru. Look at him. Keep looking at him. Keep looking at him. By constantly observing him, not just keep looking. If you keep looking, what you will do is you will start imitating him. That's all. At best, what will happen is you will start imitating. That imitation is not what is referred here. Now, observation. Observation is different from looking. By that observation, you absorb that state of his, as it were. So you have to observe and absorb. There you dissolve your ego and reach his state. You become him. That's why if you see there, those four rishis will be looking at him. You see the picture, those rishis will be looking at him, and he is what? He is closed. He is not looking at them. He is not looking. They keep looking at him. That's all. Those four rishis look at him, and he is totally absorbed in his silence. This is one dimension of Shiva. There's another dimension of Shiva, is other extreme, Nataraja. A static dance of realization. That state of bliss represented in the form of dance. And in the dance comes out everything. The entire creation happens through that dance of Shiva. Everything is happening, not just creation. Creation, maintenance, destruction, everything happens in the dance only. So he says this other side. Then you have Shiva seated in the form. And there is a description of Lord Shiva. In the description of Lord Shiva, you will find couple of things very, very interesting. One is, you would have seen Shiva having the crescent moon on his head. Right? Very, very interesting one. The crescent moon. And they give a story also, very interesting story they give. The story is the moon, moon god, Chandra, was married to 27 nakshatras. You don't try all that, okay? Don't get jealous. Oh, you're at 27, huh? When he married those 27 girls of Daksha Prajapati, that Daksha Prajapati had given him, Daksha has given, had given a specific instruction. Look here, you want to marry all my 27 girls, no problems, but you should not be partial. You should be impartial. You cannot have one favorite for you. But unfortunately, this fellow did not heed. He said yes, yes, yes during marriage. Like all these boys, they'll say yes before marriage. Whatever conditions being put, they'll say yes, done. After that only they realize it is an impossible thing. Same way, this fellow started being partial, spending more time with the last one. Right, 27th. And the 26th went and complained to the father. And Daksha cursed him. Lose all your glory. And he didn't know what to do. He ran to Lord Shiva and pleaded, please save me. This Daksha has cursed me like this. Of course, I understand I made a mistake, but please protect me. See, to break a promise is very wrong thing to do. But then Shiva said, you don't worry. You will go down as given by him, but you will grow also. You will grow back. This is the waxing and waning of the moon we see. Paurnami and Amavasya and all that comes, no? So each day is supposed to be going to 111. In that Prathama, Tritiya and all comes, no? That the third day of the moon is the time you will actually see that moon. Before that, you will not see moon. First day, you will not see the moon. And next day to Amavasya, you won't see moon. Second day also, you will not see it. That's why many times people get confused. If they look at that, moon and then decide, is it Amavasya today? They say, no, today is second day. It will not be visible. Only the third day it will be visible. That visible one, he said, I will take it on my head as an ornament. This is a story. Okay. Story, I just have to listen to the story and leave it at that. Don't worry about what is the significance of third day, what is the significance of this, that, and all. That's the visible one, that's all. All that you have to understand is just visible. All the story, behind that story, they have one idea. The light, you have cosmic lights, we have three sources of light. Fire, created one. Natural one is moon and sunlight. Okay. So usually what we represent is, what we say is the knowledge, wisdom, all that is associated with light. Ignorance is associated with darkness. Right. Now, is sunlight better or moonlight better? To represent, there was a debate. Which light is a better representation for jnana, spiritual wisdom? Which light is better? There, Shiva's contention was moonlight is better than sunlight. Moonlight is a better one. What is this moonlight? Moonlight, all of us know. Moonlight is not a direct light. Moon doesn't have a light. It is a reflected light only. Right? Now, what Lord Shiva says is the reflected light, reflected knowledge that you gain from the scriptures is better than direct knowledge of realization. Peculiar stand. See, direct realization, all is considered as the highest one, Upanishads. But Lord Shiva comes and says, no. That's why Lord Shiva is considered to be a common man's God. He's not, Vishnu is not a common man God. Vishnu is meant only for, elite people. Shiva is not for elite people, he is for a common man. We can connect to him. Anybody can relate to Shiva, very simple fellow. Vishnu is not a simple guy, very complicated fellow. When you go to Krishna, you will understand. When you read about Krishna, Vishnu, you will see that. Shiva is, simple fellow. He says, this is better. Why? Remember, all these things are all just one stroke, one dimension of knowledge. That's all. So don't take it as complete. Every picture, every God that we are studying is one dimension of truth. One aspect of truth is explained. One aspect of truth that is explained here is this. In sunlight, there are two things in light you get in sunlight. One is the actual light. Right? Another aspect of sunlight is the heat. He says, Brahma Vidya will illumine without heat. If you take sun, the problem is one aspect of that is illumination. Yes, sunlight illumines, there's no doubt about it. But that sunlight illumination comes along with the heat. That is why we say in that sunlight, there's a fascinating one. One is the light, another one is the heat. In a light which is visible, illuminating aspect of the light is visible, perceptible. But the heat dimension of that is invisible. You won't see that. Isn't it? You can't see it. You can only feel it. That's all. You can't see. There, they say, Shiva says, see, Brahma Vidya, direct realization is like sunlight, no doubt about it. But when you get that knowledge through a guru, through the Shastras, Guru and Shastra is the same thing. Okay? Guru is Shastra, Shastra is Guru, that's all. Through him, when you are getting it, what he does there, he just absorbs all the heat dimension of it. He gives out the glow illumination as a cool rays. That's why moonlight is very cool. So what is Shiva? He keeps that Chandra, moon. Very, very interesting aspect. One. In the backdrop of the darkness, when people are suffering in the darkness of ignorance, there is a ray of light comes in the form of these Mahatmas, the form of the Shastras. That's the moon. He says, I am carrying it. I carry the moon. And there's no connection to the story and this. You see, you can't connect. What is that story? Sir? Prajapati cursed him and this, that. See, all that is only for you to remember. That's all. And on the same head, you will find Shiva carrying one more. One side he was carrying the moon. The other side he is carrying the fountain, Racine. If you have not known, if you have not seen, you go to this, that Kempfort in Old Airport Road. Go and see, huge Shiva sitting. And you will find there's a fountain in front. And there's a moon also there, you can see. Ganges. Now, there is a big story behind Ganges again. Now you got to read that story and then connect. At least you will remember the story. That's why I connected with the story. If not the idea. Idea is only one line. You see, the problem is that one-liner is difficult to, you will remember, but you won't understand the context of it. Now Ganges is supposed to be, there was a king, Saraga. What he did was, he wanted to perform one Ashwamedha Yaga. Horse. With a horse, they have. Now, it's not Ashwamedha, doesn't mean you go and kill the horse. It's a very wrong idea people have. It's not that you kill the horse, in fact. They send that horse to move on the land. Wherever it goes, whoever has the power to capture that horse can capture it. They are challenging the king. If they freely allow the horse to move, that means they are accepting him as a supreme king. That's all. They are acknowledging him as, yeah, you are bigger man. I agree. That's all. So when they agree like that, this is the Ashwamedha Yaga. So they sent the horse and he sent the horse out. And Indra, what he did was, he abducted, he stole the horse and took into the Patala, underground. And he tied it next to the Rishi Kapila. Kapila Rishi was sitting, and he was in deep meditation. So Kapila Muni, he was meditating, and he tied that horse and he disappeared. And the king started searching for the horse. So he asked his sons to search. Somebody has stolen it. Find out who it is, where the horse is, and finish that fellow and bring the horse back so that we can complete the yajna. So they searched on the surface. On the surface, when they could not get, they had to dig deeper. They said, we'll try under Padal. And that time they were digging. That is the time where they dug. That's where, after the rain, waters filled up. That's the Sagar. That's the ocean that we are seeing. They're digging all over. They're digging. Where they took that sand and throw, we don't know. Right? But the story is this, that's all. They're digging, and they found Kapila Muni sitting there, and he is close to his hand, he is meditating. And next to him, in the tree, that horse was tied. And these fellows, there are about thousands of them, right? The 1,000 fellows, they were searching for that, and they found that horse. First reaction will be what? Hey, we got the horse, man, celebration. No? Big celebration. 1,000 fellows started screaming. What will happen? So much of noise. In that total silence, Kapila wanted absolute silence. That's why he dug himself deep into the earth and he was sitting there, so that there is no disturbance. Right? These fellows go there and make a noise. You know, that reverberation, so much of noise they would have created. You know? And Vivekananda explains it beautifully. He says, what is concentration? He says, what is concentration? If you say, I am concentrating, meaning is, a drop of a needle, you will hear like a thunder. A needle is dropped. You will hear that sound like a thunder sound. That's the concentration. That means you are having concentration. If you are not reacting to that also, 10,000 wala is breaking. Means there is no concentration. I'm not talking about ear problem. You see, you say, oh, it means you can't. There is no concentration. In deep concentration, the subtle sound itself will hear to this extent. Imagine 1,000 fellows make that noise. Hooray! What will happen? And Kapila, totally disturbed with his meditation, he opened his eyes in that shock. And people think it's anger and all. It's not anger or anything. It's just that jerk. In that jerk, when he opened his eyes and saw them, that heat is enough for these fellows to be burnt to ashes. Instantly, those 1,000 fellows were reduced to ashes. He did not understand what is happening. Kapila. He didn't understand why they were screaming, why this, who those fellows are, nothing. And then he said, okay, and he went back to meditation again. And there's a heap of burnt ashes. There's 1,000 fellows, sons. And the father is waiting for the sons to come back. He's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. He got old and he passed away. And then he told his next son, find out, man, what has happened. He came and he found out what is happening, sir. He said, this is what has happened. And he reverentially prostrated to Kapila and said, this is what has happened. It's not their fault. He said, it's not my fault also. Now I can't do anything. So at least if these fellows, untimely death for these guys, for them to get a salvation, what is to be done to get salvation to all these people? He said, if you can bring the Ganges, which is flowing in the heavens, you bring that water and wash off this ashes, they will get to peace. That's why even today we do it. A man dies, he says, please, wash my ashes in the Ganges. Belief is this, that's about it. It's not that, don't think it will all that immediately you will get, salvation now. That's not what's going to happen. But it's a belief. It happened to those people, so it will happen to us also. So he came back with a horse. He told that father, said, this is what has happened, so what to do? They said, how to bring that Akasha Ganga, which is flowing in the heavens, to earth? Forget it. Next generation also forgot. The fourth generation came the king called Bhagiratha. He took it up on himself. He said, look here, it's my responsibility to appease my ancestors. They're hanging like that. Yeah. So he handed over the country to the ministers. They said, you take care of the country. Let me go and do something to get it. So how to get it? He sat and did tapas. Ganges. Akasha Ganga appeared. Right? This Akasha Ganga, when she was appeared, she said, look here, I will come. But the problem is, the force of mine cannot be withstood by the earth. Cannot stand it. It will go to pieces. It's too much of a force. They can't manage. So find out something. Then he asked her, who you can ask? Well, who can withstand the force? He said, there's one man who can try that, who can withstand my force, I believe. There's a chance. But it's only a chance, please, but you can try. This is Lord Shiva. Ask Lord Shiva. He said, okay. Then again what he did, sir? Again tapas towards Lord Shiva. Tapas number 1 is to Ganga. Then tapas number 2 to Shiva. And Shiva appeared. After a long tapas, there's a huge, details of his tapas were all given. And Shiva appeared. When Shiva appeared, she said, okay, now what is that you want? He said, look here, I have requested Ganges to flow. She says she cannot come here because earth cannot stand it. So can you take it? He said, yeah, of course I can. There's no problem. I will take it. And Ganga Arohanam happened. It started flowing. He approached immediately Ganges because now he has a, entry. Straight he contacted because he had a personal number. Because earlier he was not having. Now he has a personal, number. So he sent a message. Shiva is ready. You can come. And she started flowing. When she flew into Shiva, she just entered into the matted locks of Shiva and disappeared. Was lost completely because this lady didn't know how to come out. It's like maze, you enter, you don't know how to come out. Entire Ganges from there came in. That, I don't know how many TMC they allowed. The heavens, right? And then they stopped, of course. They can't have, complete, supply is not there. They stopped. They said, this much only allowed, your quota over, closed. And this man disappeared. And Bhagiratha is standing there waiting for the Ganges to flow out. Nothing is coming, not a drop of water. Standing and standing and standing, nothing came out. Because he saw clearly that went into Shiva, he saw. Nothing came out. She said, and Shiva simply locked his hair and he disappeared. What to do now? Again do tapas to Shiva. And now Shiva came again. Now what? Now what do you want? He said, look here, I told you to receive Ganges. Yeah, of course I had received. Now, I wanted Ganges to flow and bless these people, not for you to receive and keep her. Please release. Then, oh, Shiva said, okay, fine. Now I will release. Then he released a little, not total, little release. You want this much only? No, enough here. Why you want all that? Drip irrigation. And the drip irrigation is not a new, Israel found out. It's not Israel has got drip irrigation. Lord Shiva is the first one to do drip irrigation. Now we have proved Vedanta is very scientific. There's a lot of science in Vedanta. Petal, don't say all that, please. Okay, just release. It's all story. Okay, philosophy comes later. Message comes later. It's just a story. Little he released. That little is what we are seeing as the Ganges now. Trickles. So little by little it is released. And that Ganges flew. And in that flow, salvation happened to all these fellows who have sinned. All the sinners were, all their sins washed off, they all got into moksha, salvation. They attained salvation. And that's what is flowing now. And that is where he got that title Gangadhara. The one who is the Adhara for Ganga. And Ganges is supposed to be the second daughter of Himavan. Himavan had two daughters. Okay. The first one was named as Uma or Haimavati. Is a daughter of Himavan, the king of Himalayas. She married Shiva. The second daughter is Ganges, Ganga. Is supposed to be the second daughter because she is also flowing from Himalayas. That's all it is. So what did she do, sir? She was taken by Shiva on his head. What is this significance? It's now. The message is the Ganges flowing in the heavens. Heaven is not a geographical place. Okay, even though it is depicted as a geographical, it's not geographical place, please. It is that knowledge of the self, this Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya, was accessible to the people of heavenly. Only heavenly people were enjoying it. Who are the heavenly people? Heaven is not a geographical place. Then what is it? It's a state of peace. When you are in a state of no agitation, you are in heaven. Agitated state is called hell. When you are in a disturbed state of mind, you are in hell. When you are not disturbed, you are in heaven. So those who are permanently for a long period of time not disturbed means sinless, peaceful people. It was accessible and available only to the peaceful ones, not for a common man. Common man is we are all, where we are all, sometimes peaceful, most of the time agitated. Right? We are not like Rakshasas, all the time agitated. Asura, but we are humans. What is a human? Human is in between. In between means what? Sometimes this, sometimes that. Sometimes peaceful, sometimes you feel so happy, Sometimes you feel so disturbed. Why you are leaving? Right? Is there. Sometimes you are so excited. Wow, I am so blessed. What a fantastic life, man. You feel like that. This. But the knowledge of the self, Vedanta, or this Brahma Vidya was available only to those people. But that needs to be brought to a common man. Only then they will also get salvation. Otherwise, how they are going to get salvation? There's no chance for these people. Therefore, one fellow, a great benefactor, Bhagirath, did a tremendous tapas. Someone need to facilitate to bring that knowledge which is not available to a common people. This Upanishadic knowledge which was available only with those high flown rishis, this Vedas, which is not accessible to a common man, is there. But how do you get it? You need someone to receive it. No. Who can receive that knowledge and give it? Can that Brahma Vidya be given directly to people, sir? Not possible. Because they are not ready. When they are not ready, you go and give them. It will disturb them, it will destroy them, rather than do benefaction. That's why it is very important to know how to give that knowledge. You can't tell them. It is like a child, 2.5-year-old child is asking, where was I before birth? How I have taken birth? The child asks, what will you tell the child? Will you say, chromosome X, chromosome Y, this chromosomes and that chromosome existing here, one part of you was there, one part of you was here, and then, this happened, and then that happened. All these, science of embryology, you don't talk. What do you tell the child? We were all so bored in our house. So one day we prayed to God. And God said, okay, I'll give you a child. And you came inside my tummy. That's all. Finished. That's how you came. And the child is so happy. Is it? He'll go. Now you don't explain all that. Why? It's not necessary for him to know all that now. Once he grows, then we can explain. Then we can teach. Otherwise you cannot. Same way here. You don't have to give them the total knowledge. They cannot. But at the same time, someone should be able to receive that. Who is that person? Shiva is that fellow. Why did she choose Shiva? Because he is the only God in the form of an ascetic. He is just an ascetic he is. Ascetic God he is. Medical. He just lives a life of an austerity. An austere person, tapasvi. The one who has done tremendous tapas, who is an introverted personality. That's why Shiva is seated on the meditation. Seated means introvert. He is an introverted person. An introverted tapasvi who has lived a life of austerity alone has the capacity to receive the total knowledge. So what does he do, sir? He receives that knowledge. But the first thing happens is that knowledge enters into him. It will not come out immediately. It's there. It just is inside him. He absorbs it. Total absorption happens. After he being absorbing that knowledge, then he will release. How much? A little. What he releases as little is enough. You have to see the Ganges in Calcutta. ships can pass through. Huge. It's an extraordinary blessing. That little is enough for the world. The little knowledge that he gives. He's not going to give total knowledge. All that he knows, he is not going to give. He just gives a little. The little blesses the world. That is what the significance of Shiva carrying the Ganges on his head. Another story. Right? Because people are also interested in the stories than, principle. Principle is what? Knowledge is not available to a common man. It cannot be accessible. It can be accessed only by them. So if you need access, you have to go to heaven. You cannot get it otherwise. You don't have access here. So to bring it, who needed, sir? You need a Mahatmas. That's what all these great masters that we see. They have done tapas. They've received it. And they have received total. But can you receive that total? That is not possible. So what do? They just give one aspect, little. It trickles, they give this knowledge, little by little. That's why alternate weeks we have this class. Little by little. You can't give total. Every day if you start having classes, some of them, they do. I'm going to attend all your classes. In 3 months, they collapse. After 3 months, they are nowhere. The same people can't take it. Who can take that? Only the one who has done tapas. The one who has maintained life of self-control, life of brahmacharya, the life of austerity, self-control, who has had the capacity to conserve that energy, the thought energy, and stay collected within themselves. Those people have that knowledge, have that capacity to receive it. They receive and give it. But they will not, all this wouldn't have happened but for Bhagirath. But for Bhagirath, it wouldn't have happened. That's why one fellow says, Shiva, you must be mad. This is the only religion where we call God mad. You call you mad fellow, madcap man you are. Why? You have one side you are having moon, cool. Other side you have water, which is again cool, ice water. Cool moon and cool water, if you keep, what will happen? Your brain will freeze. You know that? Cafe, coffee day. Go. Next time when you go there, ask for Nirvana. That's my favorite. Because of the name, you will attain Nirvana when you have it. What is that? Your brain gets frozen. Absolutely frozen. This fellow has both. Obviously, you'll go mad, man. Your brain frozen completely. The cool one, Lord Shiva. He's a cool guy. His head is very cool. He's a cool fellow. Why? Moon is there and the Ganges is there. Cool-headed guy. And he just gives little knowledge to us. Releases little by little. Slowly you learn. And it'll start flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. Collected. From Gangotri to Calcutta, you see the difference. You take a picture of Ganges near Gangotri and come to Calcutta and take a picture and see in between. And it's so fascinating to see how the flow of Ganges, torrential flow, particularly near that, little above Rishikeshala, if you go and see, you can't hold the current. It's so furious. Once it comes to the plains in near Calcutta, how is it, sir? Quiet it is. You can't even see it flowing actually. It's so quiet. That's what this knowledge is. It devours everything inside you. But don't jump in, wait. We say, And finally, where it leads you to that sagar, infinite realization. Merges, the river merges in the ocean. This knowledge takes you to that bliss of realization. From that peace of no agitation to the bliss of realization that it takes. That's the salvation. See, the salvation given, promised by the flow of Ganges is this. That's why it is very sacred for us. Because Ganges is not just one more river for us. Ganges is treated here, is sacred. Why? Not because of the water. You see, don't think it is something to do with the water there. That is also H2O only. It's not that Ganges water is any different from Nile River or Amazon. It's a same river only. But here we take Ganges as a separate one, different from all other ones, because it's a representation of the knowledge. And Shiva alone can give that knowledge. That is why Dakshinamurti. Only he can give. How he will give, sir? Just show Chinmudra. That's all, silence. Now, how you have to get it is by observing it. Keep seeing the picture of Shiva. And every facet of Shiva's picture has its own dimension. The peaks of white Himalayan peaks background is just the purity. That's all. The background of purity. You've got to have your life lived. Life of purity you got to live. You can't have a cluttered life, impure life. You live pure life, pure thoughts, pure emotions, not attachments. We don't understand. There's no attachment for Shiva. It is a totally detached. This is a picture of detachment. That's what ascetic is. There's no attachment. And that Shiva has a different eye. That what happens to him, he gives the knowledge to us, but what happens to him is he has the third eye. Shiva has a third eye, that knowledge. When he gains that knowledge through that ascetic life, that life of control, when he lives tapas. So tapas and jnanam gives a perception, the third eye. You see, picture-wise, you see, it's a very funny one, actually. Suddenly one eye in the between. Some of them also draw that. Drawn and sitting there. There's no such thing, please. It's a representation. That is, we all have two eyes through which we see. He develops a third eye called Jnana Chakshu. Third eye of wisdom. Eye of wisdom opens up. When he opens that eye of wisdom, the Tripura Dahana happens. All the three worlds are destroyed. And Manmata is destroyed. Manmata is a kama, lust, desire represented. Manmata is the god of desire, lust. He is burnt. When he opens that, he doesn't have to do anything. He just has to look into through the eye. That's all. He is burnt to ashes. Same way, he just has to look the world through that third eye. It's burnt to ashes. Burnt to ashes, not literally. It means it loses all its value. But today, we have a tremendous value to the world of objects, the world of emotions, the world of thoughts, ideas. But what I think is, that's what it means. It is burnt. There's no what I think. But what I believe is, what do you believe? I don't believe anything. Why do you want to know what I believe? What is my thought, my belief, my idea, all this? All that is burnt. That's the meaning of it. Don't literally the three worlds are burnt. People think like that. If Shiva opens his eyes and looks at us, we'll be burnt to ashes. It's not that. The same eye can be an eye of bliss through that man who has that tapas and who had received that knowledge. The proof of that is he has the third eye, and when he gives out, it trickles that knowledge, which is more than enough for us. That's the Shastras. That's all the Shastras that we have. The entire Vedantic literature that we have is that trickles just a little, just a little. Enough for us. Salvation comes. This is Shiva. Uh, so many things are there. Now, how much you to say? Somewhere you have to stop and move to another idea, another god. Otherwise, other gods will get angry. So we'll move to other god. Because Vishnu is standing there in the waiting. How long this appointment, man, with Shiva? Finish that quickly. We'll see Vishnu in the next class. Hari Om.